What do you need to get started? Is how do you get paid? How much do buildings pay? Can I do it part-time? Is it realistic to do full-time? What is my schedule? How do you get leads/clients? Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Keisha if you're new here, and thank you for clicking on today's video. So today's video is all about apartment locating. This is a long-awaited video. This is a video that I planned to film like a month and a half ago and I just never sat down to film it. So we're finally filming it now because if you guys follow my channel, I post a lot about being an apartment locator and I get so many questions about being an apartment locator. Like, how do you get into it? How do you get paid? How much do you make? A million questions. And I get a lot of people that are like interested in becoming apartment locators. We've had a few people sign at the company that have watched my videos. I've got a message from like the hiring team saying that they interview people who have found the company through my YouTube channel, which is like so cool. Also, side note, let me say this in the beginning. If you guys do apply, put your girl down as a referral. And also, I'm hiring for my team in Nashville. So if you're looking to be an apartment locator in Nashville, I'm hiring for my team specifically. So make sure you definitely DM me directly if you want to join the company and be on my team. But anyway, yeah, so I've been meaning to sit down and do a formal video because I'm always DMing people. I've literally had people DM me on Instagram and we've sent voice notes back and forth. Like I try to be as responsive as I can when people have questions, but I just kind of wanted to make like an overall video to just send to people and direct them to. And then if you have any further questions or more specific questions, we can get into that. But just like the same general questions that I answer over and over again, I'm like, let me just make a video dedicated to the topic. So that is what we are here to do today. So I just wrote a list of like 7 common questions that I get asked. So I'm just gonna go through these. And like I said, if you have any additional questions after this video, or if you need any like further clarification on anything, feel free to comment it below. You can DM me on Instagram. My locating Instagram, you're more likely to get a response. I don't really check the requests too often on my personal Instagram. So either comment down below or send me a DM on Instagram. But all right, let's get into the top 7 questions that I get about being an apartment locator. Okay, so the first question is, what do you need to get started? So this depends on where you live and what company you work for. So when I first got into apartment locating with the company that I was with a year ago, when I first got into it, I needed my real estate license. It was a requirement. So I got my real estate license. I was already in the process of getting it anyway, but I needed my real estate license to work there. However, for Aptamigo, the company I'm currently with, in Nashville and a few markets, it is not a requirement to have your real estate license. If you do, it's kind of like a nice bonus, but it's not required. But some of our other markets and other cities and states, it is required. So this really, again, depends on what company you're working for and what city you live in. Definitely figure it out depending on where you live. But like I said, for here, I do have my real estate license. It's nice to have and I don't necessarily need it, but with Aptamigo, we can also do buy sell. So if I do decide, like if I get anyone that wants to buy or sell a house, then I have my real estate license so I can do it. So that's why it's like good that you have it. I feel like it just gives you a little extra when you work with people. You can be like, I'm a licensed real estate agent or like a realtor. So I feel like it just kind of makes it seem a little more legit and professional. Again, just kind of depends on where you live. And I did a whole video last year about how to get your real estate license. So I will have that linked up here if you guys want to check that out. I talked about the whole process of getting your license and the cost and everything like that. So check that out if you are interested in getting your real estate license. The next biggest question is, how do you get paid? How does commission work? What's the commission split? All of that. So again, this is going to depend on the company you work for, your experience, city you're in, all those details. But I'm not gonna give specific percentages per se, just because I don't know what all the other markets are. Like I know with both companies I've been in, I think commissions are a little different, whatever, but just like in general. So when you start out, at least if you say you join Aptamigo, when you start out, you'll start at like a certain commission split. Let's say you're gonna start, you don't have any experience, you start at 40-60. So you get 40%, the company gets 60%. So here at Aptamigo, they do it where after you close your first 10 deals, then you get your commission split bumped. About 10 deals. Could be sooner, could be later, depending on, you know, how well you're progressing in the role and how much like help you need and how independent you are. So it does change, but typically with different companies, you can earn higher commission, but you don't start off making the higher commission. So can get bumped up. And then as you progress through the company and as you become more independent and you're closing more deals, bringing the company more money, it goes up. So I know after me go, it's gonna go back up. The company I used to work for, you could earn more and every quarter it reset and went back down and you had to earn your way back up again. I don't know if they still do that, but that kind of sucked. So I love it that here, once you earn a higher commission split, it stays that way. Like you're not gonna get to like 60, 70% and then go back down to like 40, you know? That's kind of how like the commission splits work. So you start off with a certain amount, 40, 50, 60, whatever, and you work your way up and that works per deal. Okay, the next question I usually get asked is, how much do buildings pay? Again, this really depends on the market that you're in and the building. I know there are some cities like, I think like our Chicago market, I don't know much about the other markets, and I think maybe a couple other markets, most of the buildings pay like 100%. Here in Nashville, we say like a lot of the buildings here are like 50% buildings. I don't know what exact all the reasons are, but it depends. So some buildings will pay like 50%, some buildings pay 75%, some buildings pay 100%, some might pay 125%, some might pay like a flat fee of like 1,000 or 500, something like that. So it just kind of really comes down to, again, like the market you're in and the buildings. A lot of the new builds typically pay more. They typically pay at least 100%. Sometimes they'll pay 125, 150%. I know during busy season, it tends to go up more. The beginning of the year is a little easier because more buildings have more money in the beginning of the year versus like the end of the year when they're just like trying to like scrape up their pennies and just make it through the end of the year. They might like pull their deal or might like lower commissions. It just really, there's so many factors that come into play. So that kind of depends, but that kind of gives you a general idea of how it works. And it is off of like a month's rent. Let's say I get a client and they find a unit they like that's $2,000 and the building pays 100%. So then the building would pay Optimigo, the company, $2,000, and then my commission split, let's say I'm getting 50%. So I would make $1,000 off that deal. And let's say the building pays 50%. If my client signs a lease for $2,000, the building would pay Optimigo $1,000. If I had a 50% split, I would get $500. So again, really just depends. And I know sometimes that sounds scary. Like when I explain to people, they're like, oh, 50%? Like, and I'm like, yeah, obviously 100, 150 is more ideal, of course. But when you really think about it, I always tell people, it doesn't really matter too much about what the building pays. It kind of, there's so many factors that play into it because like sometimes I'll get a client who only wants to see like 1 or 2 buildings and they'll sign at a 100% building. And if I map out how many hours I put into, like I had a client, they only toured 3 buildings, right? So I spent 3 hours with her. I spent maybe 30 minutes talking to her on the phone and sending her search. So let's say 3.5 hours. She signed in a building and her lease was $2,066 and I got a 60% commission off of that. So what is that, like $1,200 for what, like 3 hours of work? Okay, but let's say she signed at a building that was 50% and her lease was, oh my God, there's something. But let's say that the building she applied for paid 50%. So she signs a lease that's $2,000. The building pays 50%, so they pay Optimigo $1,000. And I get 60%, so I get $600. But when you think about it, that's $600 for 3.5 hours. You know, that's not bad. But like on the offset, you might spend some time touring people at like 7 buildings and then they don't apply to anything, or they renew, or they sign at a building that you don't work with and they sign without you. So it definitely has its ups and downs and its offsets. But like as far as like building splits go, I kind of think of it more as like how many hours am I putting into it and like what does that come out to be? Because $300 an hour isn't too shabby, even if it's only 50%, even if like a 50% building, like $300 an hour isn't that bad. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helped you guys understand how like commissions and payments and everything work. Okay, actually one more thing on payment. How and when do you get paid? Lots of questions about payment. We get paid through the building. So our services are 100% free to our clients. So they don't pay anything extra to us. They don't pay anything extra to the building. We just get paid through the building. So how it works is we invoice the building after the client moves in. We wait till the client moves in because obviously like if the building pays us when they apply, but they don't end up moving in, now we owe the building money. So it's always a safe bet after the client moves in. So the client moves in and then the building, it depends on the building. We actually have it in our system. We can see, like we have the average about how long a lot of the buildings take to pay. We say standard is about 45 to 60 days after the client moves in. When you get started, it does take a few months to start getting consistent money about 2 to 3 months to start consistently making money. Because let's say you start working here in February and you're leasing clients that are moving, and like you might get some people that are moving quick like in February, but likely you're gonna get clients that are moving like March, April, May. So let's say you get a client in the beginning of February, you tour them, they apply for an apartment for March 1st, right? So you get this whole month of February. Then March 1st rolls around, our team, we have like a whole team that does all the invoicing and stuff. They confirm with the building that the client moved in, and then they send them the invoice. And then from there, the building can take anywhere from like 30 to 60 plus days to pay. So let's say it's 60 days. So the client moves in March 1st and the building takes 60 days to pay. That money, so it's at April, May. So then they pay the company like Aptamigo on May 1st. And then once Aptamigo gets the payment, then you would get paid on the next payment cycle. So that could be that same week, or it could be like right after the last payment cycle. We get paid bi-weekly, so it would go on the next. So it could take that much time. But I mean, I've had some buildings that pay within like 2 weeks, some within like a month. Not every building takes 60 days, but I like to just think of it as, you know, on the higher end, just to have better expectations. So it's like better to think it's gonna come way later than it's gonna come way sooner, and it doesn't, and you didn't like plan for it. So it does take a while to get started, but then after you've been at it and you've been constantly leasing, after about 2 or 3 months, it does become more consistent. That is the one scary thing about getting started, is you do have that gap period of no pay. But here at Aptamigo, they do pay you on your 5th, 10th, and 15th lease up front, just on like the 5th. So 3 out of 15 you'll get paid. So 1 for every 5 deals up until your 15th deal. I hope that makes sense. So it just kind of helps a little bit when you get started, so you don't go literally the whole time without any money. But that is something that's really good to know when you get into it, is to budget for it. Make sure you have savings, or you're doing a side hustle, or you're doing something to make sure that you can stay afloat until you start getting like consistent paychecks. The next question is, can I do it part-time? Is it realistic to do full-time? How can you do this job? Is it part-time, full-time? What is it? So I said this is like my full-time gig. As you guys know, if you watch my channel, I mean, even if you don't watch my channel, clearly I do YouTube. So I do get paid through brand deals. I get paid through AdSense. I get paid on other platforms. I do content for companies. So like I do get paid from this, and I also run a small business. I don't pay myself for my small business, but I also do that. But I would say like majority of my income is coming from apartment locating. So I would say this is like my full-time job. And it is very realistic to do full-time, but you could also do it part-time if you wanted to. It really is one of those jobs that you get what you put into it. If I'm putting my all into it and I'm posting ads, posting on TikTok, all my socials, follow-ups, doing everything I need to do, you see the results in the month of how much commission I've earned. Versus I said in another vlog, December, I completely fell off. I didn't put much effort in. I was more focused on the small business because it was Christmas time and orders were like coming in all the time, and I put all my effort into that, and I didn't really close many deals and make that much in December. So it really is one of those jobs, the more you put into it, the more you make. It's definitely realistic to do full-time if you do the work, but it is definitely possible to do part-time. The other thing I say with part-time is you can definitely do it part-time, especially if you have a job where you might be able to like maybe sneak away for a phone call, or at least be able to like be in your phone a bit to text. My only thing is like sometimes I'll get clients that'll like today, that'll be like, can we go tour today? And I'm able, since this is like my full-time thing, I can just hop out and go. So that could be a thing. I mean, we do have like touring agents. I don't really utilize them because I like to keep all my money to myself. But that could be an option. But also like if you get a lead and you're not able to call them right away, they might fall off. That's why we say speed to lead. Like it's really reaching out. As soon as they inquire, we're reaching out, we're following up. So I feel like that would be the only like little barrier, but I feel like it's definitely still realistic to do part-time if you wanted to. Realistic to do part-time or full-time depending on what you're comfortable with, or if you want to start part-time until you start getting more consistent money and then really start dialing in and making it full-time. I think that's definitely a possibility too. So really comes down to how much you want to make, how much time you think you can designate to it, and everything like that. Okay, next thing I ask is, what is my schedule? We are independent contractors. So if you become an apartment locator, you're an independent contractor. That means you don't have a schedule. No one's telling you you have to go to meetings. No one's telling you you need to do this. No one's telling you when you need to wake up, how long you need to work for, any of that. Independent contracting comes with its own ups and downs, everything when it comes to like taxes and write out, all that kind of stuff. So that's a whole separate thing. But overall, you make your own schedule. So you can get up and start working at 8. You can start working at 12. You can stop working at 2. You can start working at 7. Since I make my own schedule, it fluctuates every day. I just kind of go off of like, it just kind of depends on the day for me. So I do get up every day relatively early. I do like to start the workday at 7, but it's also because I have a lot of other things to do. It really comes down to what you have to do and also kind of like what your clients are up to, because some days you might end up touring all day long, like 10 to 6. Or some days you might have tours at all and you're like home all day and you do a couple ads, you do some social media work, you do all your follow-ups and you don't have that much to do and you have like a little bit of a half day. It really just depends, but you do make your own schedule. You choose when you want to wake up. When do you want to do follow-ups? Do you want to do it in the morning? Do you want to do it in the afternoon? Do you want to do it in the evening? Do you want to do 50-50? But what time do you want to do them? Scheduling tours, obviously you can only schedule them during the times buildings are open. So like I would say typically like 10 to like 6. Something like that. So that kind of varies, but it really just does vary. It depends how many new leads did you get, how many follow-ups you need to do, when's everyone moving, who do you need to follow up with, how many people are trying to tour. So there's a lot of different variables, but there is no set schedule. Some days I put 3 hours of work into locating and some days I put like 8-9 hours into locating. It just depends. That's something too. It just really depends on your like client load and what's going on. Do you have a bunch of people that are moving in this, like moving 4 months from now, or do you have a bunch of people moving next month? It really is just gonna depend. It all boils down to that, but at the end of the day, you do make your own schedule. Okay, the next question is how do you get leads / clients? So a few different ways for this. One way is through Optimigo. So we get leads from Optimigo, from the website, or, you know, like the CEO and like some of the bigger people at the company will like do social media work and they might get leads, or leads through like the Optimigo Instagram. So, or like through the blog posts. So there's different ways from Optimigo that they generate leads for us. And then that goes into like a queue in the system. So you can like pick what days you want to be on to accept leads and like what time frame. And then it kind of goes through like a round robin system. And that's how they kind of distribute leads to everybody. And you just like claim it through Slack, or you generate your own leads, which is a majority of the leads that I get, not only get, but close are my own leads. So I get those from doing ads, mostly on Facebook. I do a little bit on Zillow, but I'm kind of slack on Zillow. So mostly Facebook, but a lot recently have been coming from social media. So Instagram and TikTok. If you guys follow me on my accounts, I post lots of the TikTok and I've been getting quite a few leads from there recently. So that's been really nice. So those are just some different ways that you can generate leads. And obviously word of mouth. It's always nice to get like referrals from past clients or anything like that. Yeah, so that's kind of how getting leads works. Another question I get is, do we work with like all buildings? No. So we do have, I always tell people, even my clients, I'm like, we're contracted with a lot of buildings, but not every building. So we do have like a great selection of buildings across all of our markets, but there are some buildings that just don't work with locators just because like it comes down to like the owners / management. Some don't work with locators at all. Some do on and off. Like I said earlier, sometimes like during busy season or different seasons when they need help, they'll work with us, and then sometimes they don't. They might be on and off. Then we get a lot of partners that are just consistent. And like I said, some that just are like locators, absolutely not, you're not getting our money, like no. So it kind of depends, but we don't work with every single building, but I always tell my clients that we work with a great selection of buildings that I would definitely vouch for. So that's kind of how that works. Those are the questions that I've gotten at least more than like 3 or 4 times, so that's why they made it onto the list. But like I said, if you have any other questions that you can think of, feel free to comment them down below in this video, or like I said, DM me on Instagram. If you are interested in applying to Optimigo, I think you can just like on the website and see the instructions on how to do so. Like I said, if you learn about them through me, put your girl down as a referral. Or if you live in Nashville and you're looking to get into locating, I'm actually hiring for my team specifically. So if you live in Nashville and you wanna be on my team, reach out to me like directly on Instagram and we can exchange information, talk a little bit more about the role, and set up a call so we can do like I do like a pre-screening interview. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things. And I'll see you guys again in another video. Bye.
Oh, I can't let him take my soul. Nah, 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 no. I can't let him take my soul.